Hello and welcome to the United Community channel, and we're back with another video, and today's video is the preview to Brentford versus Manchester United in what is, and has to be said, a pivotal game for Manchester United, even though it's only the second game of the season. Obviously we all know the result, and the performance against Brighton was just not up to scratch. And it was the same old story for Manchester United. We've seen the same things that we've been seeing last year in relation to the same players, the same work ethic, the same, I suppose, confidence levels. Just wasn't good enough. All around the pitch, it wasn't good enough. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about my personal starting 11 and who I would play in the game against Brentford on Saturday. And I'm also going to give maybe a score prediction as well at the end of the video. So we have lots to get into, lots to discuss. I suppose, first of all, we do need to discuss the game last week against Brighton. Obviously, it's been, poked through with a fine-tooth comb by numerous outlets, including myself, in relation to the performances. They just weren't good enough, and look, I do think Erik Ten Hag has to take some of the blame in relation to maybe the team that he picked and the players that he put out on the field. But in a way, I do also think that, in the background, did he potentially just say, okay, look, I'm a new manager here. I've never managed you in a competitive game before, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And, some of these players, I would think that Ten Hag said, this is your last chance. I will give you the start, obviously, because you've been here before, and, prove me wrong. And I certainly don't think that they did prove him wrong. We had so many poor performances against Brentford. There just seems to be a lack of organisation within the Manchester United squad. It seems very quiet, and I hark back to it. And I don't want to be picking out, Harry Maguire, because he's been picked out an awful lot. But again, if you look at and compare him to other centre backs, and let's take Van Dijk, obviously, because Van Dijk is the pinnacle in relation to defenders in the Premier League. Anytime you see Van Dijk, whether he's on camera on the field, he's always talking, he's always pointing, he's always organising his team. And I very rarely see that from Harry Maguire, which I think is so frustrating. And I think it's something that does need to improve within the Manchester United squad. Look, obviously Varane didn't play last week, and you would say, okay, he was injured for a lot of pre-season, maybe he wasn't ready, who knows. But I certainly do think that he can do a better job. Now, bringing Varane into the team, and we're talking about organising, I certainly do think he can do that. Maybe it's not quite his game, and is there a language barrier there? I'm not 100% sure, maybe not. But I certainly do think he can give us more options there. The high line that we like to play under, that Ten Hag likes to play, I think it's quite obvious that the likes of Harry Maguire is just not up to it. His recovery runs are just that bit too slow. Danny Welbeck, in fairness to Danny Welbeck, he had a very good game against Manchester United the other day. And, them diagonal runs that he made, maybe off of Martinez and across Harry Maguire, I mean, rule number one with centre backs is you don't cross over, and the conversation and the communication didn't seem to really be there between the two of them. And look, that can be tough. Obviously, it's their first competitive game playing together as a partnership. But I certainly do think that Varane can give us more options in that area. And, his experience in big games, and I do think he can organise the defence a lot better. When it comes to our fullbacks, I thought they were probably one, if not the most weakest area of our team. I thought Delot done decent enough maybe going forward, especially in the second half, but I think defensively we were so weak from both fullbacks. Luke Shaw has had a good spell under Louis van Gaal when he first came along, and before maybe he had that horrendous leg break, and he had a good spell under Solskjaer. But after that, he hasn't been good, and he's been at the club for 8 years now. So it really isn't something that we need to be, kind of, personal about, to say, oh no, Luke Shaw deserves another go, he deserves another chance. He's had all of the chances, under the sun down through the years, under countless managers, and he hasn't done it. He just simply hasn't done it. So I would be surprised if he doesn't. I would be surprised if he does start against Brentford on Saturday. When it comes to the midfield, I mean, we all know about the midfield, don't we? We really do. Fred and McTominay again, and I did hear on some video, I'm not sure where I heard it, that this is McTominay's fourth season in a row to start the first game of the season. He started every first game of the season for the last 4 years, and again, Ten Hag is not stupid, and I hope he's not as stupid as that to think that, I'm going to play McTominay and Fred as my two midfielders. I think, again, going back to it, maybe he's given him the benefit of the doubt. First game of the season, first competitive game under me. Here's your opportunity. Now go and take it. And if you don't take it, then you're out. And I certainly hope that that is the case. Fred is a player that I've mentioned on previous videos in the past that I do think he can improve under Ten Hag. I do think he can do a job. He certainly did not show that against Brighton last weekend. If you're asking me who do I think is a better player, who would I prefer to have in the team, Fred or McTominay, I would go with Fred all day. Now, I don't think he's at the levels to get us back to where we need to be. But again, with the likes of the young players that we've had in pre-season that have had very good pre-seasons, you have to say, I don't think he should really be starting, given how many of these players we have that potentially want to break through and make a name for themselves. James Garner, for example, he's 22 years of age now, and if he doesn't start getting regular game time, he's going to say to himself, well, what more do I need to do to get into this team? Watching Fred and McTominay start ahead of him every week. There is reports potentially that it's going to be decided in the next couple of weeks whether he goes back out on loan or not. I would like to keep him, but I do think it depends on signings we get in the door before the end of the transfer window. So that's an interesting one there. We have the likes of Zidane Iqbal, who had a very good pre-season alongside Charlie Savage. Now, are they going to be the solution throughout the whole season? Absolutely not. As talented as they are, you don't want to be putting that kind of pressure on them, to be the number one central midfielder for the whole season, given the age that they are. But I certainly would like to see them get game time this season, because I think they're certainly good enough. And then we get to our forward line. And, obviously we had Christian Eriksen was playing in a false nine, really didn't work. And that's not his fault, because it's not really his position. His position is more deep in terms of dictating play, getting on the ball early, linking defence to attack. I think that's more of his game. And we seen when he did drop into the six in the second half when Ronaldo came on, that he certainly did improve. And I thought he was probably our best player, overall last Sunday against Brighton. So absolutely, I think Eriksen, can hold his head up after last week's performance. And then we have our two wide men in Rashford and Sancho, and both of them showed very little last week. Sancho probably had a better game than Rashford. Rashford's performances really do need to improve, because he's carried over last season's performances into the game last week against Brighton. So he really needs to up his game, and he needs to up it fast, or he'll be out of this team, especially with United being linked with a number of attacking options, and hopefully we can get some before the transfer window ends. So when it comes to Sancho, look, he has all the potential in the world, but he does, again, need to start showing it. He really does. And hopefully Ten Hag is working with him day in, day out. And I'm sure he is. But I do see Sancho as being a regular starter for us this season, because I do think he has the potential to up his game. And obviously then we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo coming on as a substitute in the second half. And, with Martial being injured, obviously we all know he did have a very good pre-season. So it was kind of a blow so close to the game that Martial was out injured. I'm sure maybe they were working on certain formations and things that probably had to change when Martial got injured. And, obviously Ten Hag did come out and say that Cristiano Ronaldo was, not really ready. I certainly do think we need to play him now, because that formation with a false nine really didn't work. It really didn't work. So, look, in my opinion, I think there does have to be a lot of changes. There really does. And I hope Ten Hag is strong enough to go out and make these changes. I would rather lose with the likes of, Donny van de Beek and James Garner playing in the centre of midfield than I would with Fred and McTominay. I really would. I think it's time now to give somebody else a chance to play in that central midfield area. And, if you're looking at who we have at the moment, obviously James Garner and Donny van de Beek are the ideal replacements. Ideal is a stretch in relation to the quality that they have. but I certainly do think it needs to change because McTominay and Fred hasn't been working out for a number of years, so it certainly does need to change. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to do our starting 11, and this is the starting 11 that I would choose. It's not necessarily who I think will start. This is what I would go with specifically, and we're going to start with David De Gea in the goal. Okay, obviously David De Gea is our number one, and there isn't any other option there really. So David, I still do think he needs to improve his. You could see early on in the game versus Brighton that he was looking to play the ball out, and get on the ball and work it out rather than going long. But again, as soon as a small bit of pressure comes on, and not just De Gea, but the team in general seems to just hit that default button and go back to their old habits. But look, I certainly do think De Gea will start, and obviously I would play him there without a doubt. I'm going to go with the low right back. I do think we, have to give him the benefit of the doubt for the only reason is that we have no one else really. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka is, not in contention to play at all under Ten Hag. He doesn't rate him. And Ethan Laird, it looks like, is maybe angling towards a move away on loan. I would like to keep Ethan Laird around. If we don't sign a right back before the end of the transfer window, I would like to keep him around as maybe going head to head with Delo. But I certainly do think Ethan Laird has the potential to be a Manchester United player in the future. Maybe he does just need that one more season on loan before he's quite ready. At left back then, I'm going to go with Malacia. I think it's time for Luke Shaw to be dropped. It really is. He's had umpteen opportunities to come out and put in a decent performance for Manchester United. His defending is abysmal. Obviously, the second goal that we conceded was, not just his fault, but he was one of the main reasons for it. He's so slow to turn. He squares on when he's defending. He doesn't defend side on. He's too slow to turn and block a shot. I think it's time for him to be dropped. And I do think that Malacia should be getting his opportunity now. And, as well, I think he should have maybe started last week. If you're looking at what would work better for mentality within the squad, especially at our left back area, if you started Malacia and had Luke Shaw on the bench first game of the season, Malacia says, brilliant, I'm in and I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep this shirt and I want to play every game. And then Luke Shaw is saying, I'm out, I need to up my game here, and it creates good competition. However, what happened was Luke Shaw gets the start, Malacia is on the bench, and Malacia saying to himself, I had a very good pre-season. Right, okay, the other lad is starting. And then Luke Shaw is going, I'm the man, I'm not getting out here. So there's a big difference there in terms of mentality if we had have done it the opposite way. So I think Malacia should get the opportunity to play because he's had a very good pre-season. And Luke Shaw, obviously, is doing his usual thing, his usual poor performances. In defence, I'm going to go, obviously, with Martinez. I think he was one of our better players. Obviously, he was very lucky to get away with not conceding a penalty in the second half. But look, I do think he looked the sharper between him and Maguire. Obviously, he has the recovery pace to get back. He looked very comfortable on the ball. He's well able to step out with it and play the ball out from central defence. So I would certainly be going with him. And I'm going to partner Varane beside him. Again, I think Varane needs to play. Varane is world class if he can stay fit. Now, who knows what levels his fitness are at. If he was on the bench last Sunday, he certainly should have been fit enough to start. So I'm going to go with Varane and Martinez as a centre-back pairing. In midfield, I'm going to give James Garner the nod to start. Again, Fred and McTominay are finished for me. I don't think they should be playing as a partnership ever again. Okay, if you have to play one of them individually alongside other central midfielders, then okay. But together, I think they're done. I think their time has come to just to break up that partnership and not have it anymore. It's just not working. And I'm going to play Donny van de Beek beside James Garner. I think Donny van de Beek looked lively enough when he came on last weekend. Now, obviously, he didn't set the world on fire or anything, but he was looking for the ball. He was getting into channels, and it's something that Scott McTominay is basically incapable of doing. You see him hiding behind opposition midfielders rather than getting into channels and looking for the ball. And Paul Scholes said it very well in his analysis of the game. He doesn't receive the ball on the half turn. He receives the ball off of his defenders, facing his defenders. And when you do that, there's only one area you can go, and that's back to your defenders. But I think Donny van de Beek is a lot more comfortable getting the ball on the half turn, opening his body, and maybe getting it forward to one of our attackers. So I'm going to go with him. And then ahead of him, I'm going to go with Christian Eriksen. Obviously, I thought Christian Eriksen was one of our better players last Sunday. And again, he is one of them players that can link the defence to the attack. Now, whether he plays in the 8th, like I'm showing here on the screen, or whether he plays more deep, I don't think Ten Hag is looking to play two, sitting midfielders. We seen last Sunday that it was either McTominay or Fred. It was Fred most of all. And then McTominay was playing kind of further ahead of him. I do think maybe you could see Eriksen dropping into Donny van de Beek's position, with Donny van de Beek playing maybe a little bit further forward. But that obviously means that Bruno Fernandes is dropped to the bench, and I think it's time for him to be dropped to the bench. He had a poor game last week as well. He continues to do these Hollywood balls, these 40, 50-yard passes rather than doing the simple things. And he does need to up his game as well. And I think Eriksen coming in there, if he is to get the nod to start on Saturday against Brentford, I think it will give Fernandes that kick up the arse that he actually needs. Now, and in the forward line, I'm going to go with Jadon Sancho again on the right-hand side. Look, I don't think he had an overly good game last Sunday, but I do think that he's the best option we have for our right wing at the moment. I don't see any other real players that can come in there and start on the right-hand side. We've seen throughout pre-season, obviously Chong got a game against Rayo Vallecano, and he was atrocious. So look, I'm going to give Sancho the nod as our right-sided player. On the left-hand side, I would bring in Garnacho, and I think he should get his game time. I think he's such a great talent. He really is a great talent, and I think he deserves to get that start. And obviously Rashford is, given his performance last week, should be dropped to the bench. And I'm not holding back here with any. I don't care who you are and what your name is or how long you've played for the club. If you're not playing well enough, you're not starting. End of story. And I think Ten Hag, and I hope Ten Hag is strong enough to do that. And then up front, I'm going to go with Ronaldo. Obviously, he's the one that's going to get you goals. We've seen last week Rashford had a bag load of chances, and he should have scored at least 2. And Fernandes should have scored as well. So obviously, if you're looking for someone to get a goal, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. And I do think he made the game a lot more, I suppose, attacking in relation to Manchester United last Sunday when he did come on. The tempo improved instantly. We had a ball in over the top that he could run onto. So I'm going to go with Cristiano Ronaldo there. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below. In relation, obviously this is who I would start. But again, let me know what you would do. Would you change anything? Let me know in the comments below. Would you change any players, any positions there? Maybe even the formation. Let me know in the comments below. And in relation to a result then, obviously, I don't think Brentford are going to be a bad team. I think they're a decent team. They came back from a 2-goal deficit against Leicester last week to get a good draw, 2-2. They've obviously had a very good season last year. I've said it in my Premier League predictions that I don't foresee them having a second season syndrome where they could potentially go down. I think they're well drilled, they're well coached, they've got a good manager. It's a little cauldron of a stadium that they have down there, and I don't think it's going to be an overly easy game for Manchester United. But I have to go with, on paper, Manchester United in terms of quality, and I even think that team that I have on the screen there is good enough to get a result. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory to Manchester United. I do think I can't see Manchester United not conceding. Ivan Toney has scored again in the first game for Brentford. So, and Manchester United are not rock solid at the back either. Going to go with a 2-1 result to Manchester United. Now, obviously, there is a bit of bias towards Manchester United for me, obviously being a United fan, and I will never not admit that. I want Manchester United to win. I hope Manchester United do win, and that's why I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Manchester United. But look, that's a preview, guys. I appreciate everyone who's watched, who's tuned in. Again, like I said, let me know your match predictions in the comments below. Let me know, would you change anything in relation to the starting 11 that I've gone with. Please smash a like on the video as well. It helps out the channel an awful lot. And hit subscribe as well if you haven't done so already. We're doing watch-alongs for all the Manchester United games this season. We have our match previews. We do our transfer talk shows Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. And we have a podcast as well that comes out every Monday too. So make sure you're liking and subscribing, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the watch-along on Saturday. Take care.